3 minutes.
Good evening. Welcome to the December 1st meeting of the Finance Committee. On tonight's agenda, we have the budget kickoff for fiscal year 2023. We're going to review and vote on transfer requests. We're going to probably reorganize, and then we have minutes to look at, and then we have an executive session at the end. So, good evening, Mr. Kazanovich. I turn this over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. So tonight officially kicks off the start of the FY 2023 budget. I have roughly a 15-minute presentation. I'll go through our estimates based upon the conclusion of the fall town meeting as a basis for the start of our budget. With some assumptions.
Yep.
That we know are going to not hold, they're going to change. And there's a lot of uncertainty relative to some of the estimates that we have projected based upon current economic conditions. So
Yep.
I think we all know inflation is spiking up. What impact that's going to have on fixed costs is quite honestly unknown at this point in time. Whether that's a long-term thing, whether it's a short-term thing, remains to be seen. And quite honestly, that's going to have an impact on state revenues as well. So with that, I just want to caution everyone that this thing could move in either direction very quickly. That's something we'll keep an eye on, and certainly, with the infusion of federal money, how that's going to impact the local budgets is quite honestly uncertain at this time as well. So just keep that in mind as we go through this presentation. Madam Chair, I will present from the podium tonight.
Okay.
I think that it's going to make it a little easier for all. I will remove my mask once I get up there, just so there's some more clarity to the presentation.
Good evening. Sorry. I just want to get everything set up upstairs.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to see you.
I'm glad, thank you. I'm glad you got it set up. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all set. Also, while Ed is setting that up, we should just point out all the department heads are here as
Yep.
well, if there are any questions.
Thank you for coming, everyone. Thank you. Do you want to do it from here?
Yeah, I can't, I'm having trouble.
Yeah.
Slideshow. Oh, I don't know why I couldn't get there. Great, thank you.
Oh, good.
Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, thank you for the opportunity tonight. I want to thank all the department heads and division heads for coming out as well, and those who may be participating remotely. So here's a first look at our early estimates that will lead up to a formulation of the budgets, and we'll commence our discussions with the department heads, which will lead to a hearing before the Finance Committee starting in February. I just want to draw attention to the orange booklet that Sharon had put together, and thank you, Sharon. She does a fantastic job outlining the timeline. If we could adhere to the timeline, that will make for a smoother process, and it will allow us to get to a final budget to the Finance Committee on time. So, in summary, I just want to say that this budget utilizes, for presentation purposes, 100% of 2.5. It presents tonight with total appropriations of $74.5 million. On the expense side, on the revenue side, we have local receipts of $10.3 million, cherry sheet receipts of almost $15.2 million, A tax levy, not including debt exclusion, of $44.565 million. Total debt exclusion to be raised, almost $2.8 million, and available funds of $1,688,000, for total revenue sources of $74.578 million. At this point, early on, it would leave unobligated about $72,500, and it would tax at roughly, for presentation purposes, the full 2.5%, leaving an excess levy level to what it is for FY '22 at almost $8 million. As we break down the revenue expense, the local receipts is up $105,000, or 1.02%. Cherry Sheets are estimating about a 1.75% increase of $261,000 over current year. Tax levy, $1,718,000, or 4.01. Debt exclusion, that's fixed, that's not going to change. A reduction of $54,000, or 1.91%. And available funds, a decrease of $1.657 million, or just under 50%, giving us total revenue up 0.5%, $372,692, and appropriations almost of equal value of 0.40%, $300,149. As we break down the revenue, if we look at the tax levy, this budget presentation uses all of 2.5, and it also uses out of 2.5, 0.25 for our capital improvement program, consistent with our financial policies. It utilizes $450,000 of new growth. As you can see, that's a conservative amount based upon our 5-year history. Once again, our excess levy would remain level at FY '22 amount of $7.876 million. The estimated levy utilization, if we look at our total levy capacity, it uses about just shy of 85%. That leaves an unused levy percentage of about 15.02. And once again, it raises just under $2.8 million in debt exclusion levy. That's outside of the levy limit. If we look at our 5-year new growth chart, as you can see, we realize about an average of $730,000 over the last 5 years. And as you can see outlined in the yellow box, that's a breakdown of the commercial versus residential growth. And as you can see, the commercial industrial is outpacing the residential, and we firmly believe that's a result of a continued narrowing of the gap of the tax classification. As we look at the big picture of the tax levy, as you can see, we're starting out with a tax levy base for FY '23 of $50,724,000 and change. 2.5% of that is $1,268,000. If you add your new growth of $450,000, that would give us a levy amount to be used to raise in taxation of $44,565,000 and change. Out of a total potential levy limit of $52,442,000, that's a utilization of 84.98%. As we look at our excess levy history, the Board of Selectmen just set the tax classification at 1.15, consistent with the prior fiscal year. As a result of that, that utilized a total taxation of 1.20 out of 2.5. And if you look at the history, the level of taxation in red on the left, you can see we haven't approached 2.5 in the last 10 to 11 years. That being said, that results in tax savings to all our property classes. And over that 12-year period of time, we saved the residents and all taxpayers in our community just shy of $50 million. When we look at our cherry sheet state aid at almost 15.2, we used current FY22 committed and indexed that by a rate of 1.75. And we index that rate of 1.75 consistent with the growth that we realized from 21 to 22. So this is an uncertainty. We're just trending this out based upon current data. That could change either way. So when we look at our level of state aid growth since 2016, we can see the town of Auburn has done very well since then, although quite concerning the last 2 fiscal years. If we look at the percentage of growth over the last 2 years, we can see that it's declining from levels that we've seen in 2017 through 2020, when we were approaching an average of about 9%. So when we have declining state revenue, that means there's more of a reliance on other revenue to fund that difference. So as you can see, in FY22, our increase over 21 was 1.81. That's why you use roughly a 1.75% increase. Certainly, if we maintain that level, it's going to put more of a strain on tax levy to fund our operational budgets. When we look at our available funds, it raises just under $1.7 million. I'm just going to highlight some of the changes. There's a reduction of $65,500 in overlay surplus that we use in FY22. A reduction in free cash. As you know, we went to town meeting in the fall and appropriated that amount of money in free cash. That is not available at this point in time and won't be available till next fall. This should say a decrease in ambulance receipts because we appropriated a one-time article at the fall town meeting of $300 for the purchase of an additional ambulance. We're seeing a reduction in the Packard-Shaw Golf retained earnings. We used $130,022. There's no earmark in FY23. And we used stabilization at the annual town meeting in FY22 to fund our library in Goddard Park project. That money is not earmarked in the FY23 budget. Here's just a listing of available funds of what was appropriated in 22 and what we are estimating in 23. When we look at our local receipts, we're estimating $10,353,000. We're level funding local receipts based upon our approved FY22 DOR local receipts approval. With the exception of solid waste, we know that there was an increase that came before the Board of Selectmen and approved this fall. Those increases went into effect January 1. That will carry over into next fiscal year as well. Here you can see basically level funded all but for solid waste. So when we look at our total revenue, we're projecting $74,578,570. It's an increase of roughly 0.50 or 0.5% over the current fiscal year. It's an increase of $372,692. On the expense side, we can tell you that this budget does account for all wage-related contractual amounts. It does provide for a estimated wage amount of about 2.25% for town and school. And I'm going to emphasize that's just an estimate used because a lot of the contracts expire this coming June. We don't know what the values are going to be negotiated at till well into the spring and maybe after June 30th. But for purposes of putting together estimates, we used 2.25%. That's $842,000. That absorbs about 66.5% of our total 2.5 allowed. The payroll is to be calculated using 52.4 weeks. Like I said, the value index by 2.25%. It estimates solid waste pickup and disposal at about a 3.5% increase. It increases employee benefits by about blended 6 to 6.5%. That could shift either way as time goes on. This budget does provide for all current debt and interest obligations, including our recent borrowing of $5.365 million that we secured the first week in November. This budget adds an additional $110,000 of tax levy towards our 5-year CIP program. There is no earmark for OPEB currently in this budget. This budget does replenish $50,000 towards our roadway program that we adjusted at the fall town meeting. It continues that level of spending. It level funds snow and ice, and it level funds the adjusted school Medicaid receipts that we adjusted at the fall town meeting that amended it from 150 to 100. So that's another item we'll keep an eye on. If receipts come in stronger, we may adjust that as we have discussions with the school department. It level funds all cherry sheet estimates and charges. Once again, this budget adheres to our financial policies that were adopted. There is no earmark for stabilization in this budget. It increases Bay Path assessment by a 2.5 factor. I can tell you that the assessment is based on a municipal growth factor and based upon our financial positions and our level of utilization of 2.5. That actually municipal growth factor actually works against our assessment because we're not taxing at 2.5. And it level funds Norfolk Aggie that is presently in place. I'm not going to go through this. I think you can see our estimates based upon final FY22. So it goes through all the departments and it captures all of our cherry sheet charges, assessments, abatements, and our increase in CIP. Certainly, this does not reflect our CIP discussions that it's not final. It does update this based upon discussions we already have, but that could change slightly. So as you can see, we have total expense of $74,506,027. This projection is up roughly 0.40% over at current fiscal year. That's an increase of $300,150. And it does allow currently for a projected surplus of $72,542. When you put your appropriations over revenue, it utilizes 1 out of 2.5, $1,195,563. That's about 94.28%. Now, when I said we're using 2.5, the model using 2.5 does show a surplus of 72. If, for whatever reason, we were to use that 72,000 to dilute the tax rate, we would be at 94.28%. So, Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, that's an update of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Kazanovich. It's a very thorough presentation. So let me turn to our members, see if they have any questions. Patrick?
I think the only observation I made, and I don't know if we want to talk about it, I think it's a positive. You made the statement during your presentation that we've had a decline in state revenues, and I think it's just important to remember that you want to be careful relying on them because it's going to take time for those to sort through, and if our budget's reliant on state revenues and they start to go down, then that affects the operating budget directly. So even though I saw a decline, and I reviewed some of this, I think that's a move in the positive direction. It shows that if we do get some support from that, that we're able to direct it carefully and not have it rely on our actual budget. So I was pleased to see that.
Good, thank you. Trevor?
The only thing I had a question on, and it's not a big dollar value, so, and I'm not sure, but looking through available funds, I noticed that for 2023, we've got a little over 20% drop-off in ambulance revenue, and I was curious where
In
that...
ambulance revenue?
Yeah, I'm curious where that came from, because whenever we talk to fire, it always seems like
Okay.
their call rates are going up, and I'm just curious as to why it looks like that went
So,
from almost 1.4 million in '22 to
okay.
to under 1.1.
So actually, that's not actual revenue we received. The revenue we received is not reflective in this report. That's the amount we use based upon the level of support in manpower and EMS supplies in the fire department operational budget.
Oh, okay.
So we are getting roughly $1.5 million a year in ambulance revenue, and it has been increasing.
That's just how much of it we plan to...
But we're using roughly $1 million of that, and then we have about $3 million in the ambulance account right now.
Okay.
We rely on roughly $1 million a year. It was elevated to 1.3 because we used $300,000 of that revenue to purchase an ambulance outright, and that's why it was inflated in '22.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Ed, can you just explain, I think people get a little nervous when we talk about budgeting out to the 2.5% that we're allowed. Historically, though, we see this every year, we come at 2.5, but we don't come close to that in the end. Can you just explain how that sort of happens compared to what presented here tonight, and how at the end we, historically, at least in my time on the board, have not come close to that 2.5 number?
So I think we have received, over the years, we have received guidance in attempt to address the gap in taxation. So we're conservative on our growth for a reason, because we use that additional growth if it comes in. If it doesn't come in, it's great, because we're conservative. I'd rather be able to address something more than we estimated. From a budgetary perspective, it makes it easier to deal with a situation like that. Otherwise, you have to go in and cut the budget. But we use a conservative amount in growth. Anything above 450, we've always used to dilute the tax rates, to come off 2.5. So right now, if we're at 94 point, just say 94%, and our new growth comes at 700,000, we're using 250,000, or roughly 20% of 2.5, to peel it off. So instead of 94%, we're down to 74%. And that helps out the taxpayers. But, it makes it much, and as a result of that, we haven't taxed the 2.5. I think that's a very good thing to focus on, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we try to emphasize that, because there is no one else in central Massachusetts that has excess levy to the extent that we do. That's something we're very proud of. We built up a reserve, or an excess levy that allows us to address certain needs in times that revenue may be constricted. We haven't had to do that, but it's a good backstop. It's a good safeguard. And that's helped us out in a number of areas, including with the rating agencies. But the important thing to recognize is, because we're not taxing to 2.5, there's a compounding effect. We've saved the taxpayers $50 million a year. That's a lot of money. We could levy that full $7.8 million if we wanted to in any given year. We choose not to. So those are some of the positive aspects of that, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
If I can just jump in also, just to follow up, thank you, that great explanation. We had recently, for our bond rating, had to look at our state comparables, and I believe we were number 10 in the entire state out of 351 communities, with the 10th most excess levy available. So I think not only are we doing well by our neighbors here in central Massachusetts, but just statewide, there were 9 or 10 communities in the entire state that had more excess levy than us. And as a percentage of revenue, we're even higher. As a percentage of total budget, we're even higher, because a lot of those communities had much higher budgets than we did also. So as Ed said, we are very proud of that.
Good, thank you.
Now, I know, I mean, we hear it a lot, and I'm sure you hear it a lot, that people believe their taxes are too high. If we levied a greater portion of 2.5 a year, the taxes would be higher. Fact of the matter is, there was a voter mandate to approve 2 debt exclusions for this community, and that's playing a part in the elevation of the tax rate. So I think people need to recognize that. If you would appeal that away, you'd probably appeal $1.50 off the tax rate. The tax rate is now about $17 per thousand. It'd be in the 15 and change range. So the reality of it all is the tax rate is carrying 2 school building projects that this community approved.
Thank you. Thank you.
And actually, if I may, I just want to correct myself on that.
Yeah.
So we're actually 10th in the state for free cash
Okay.
certification and 20th in the state for excess levy, which is incredibly positive for us. And again, that was something that the bond rating analyst pointed out to us, that on both of those areas, we were doing very well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So let me go to our members at home to see if they have any questions. Diane, do you have any questions about the budget for Ed?
Not at this point, no. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. And Mike Marshall, any questions?
I'm all set. Thank you, Ann. I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I want to thank Ed and Julie. Thank you very much for the presentation. Well, let me ask, does anyone in the audience have any questions? Any of our department heads? No. I want to thank all the department heads, too, for coming out tonight for this presentation and coming out in the cold for the meeting. Thank you very much. I think we're all set then, Ed, right? Thank you. All right, so let's go on to the next part of our meeting. We're going to look at transfers. Let's see, the first transfer we have is a request for transfer from the reserve account for the town clerk's department. Amount requested $1,499.37, and present balance in the account is negative $1,499.37, and this amount requested will be used for the, not sure, is there a reason on here?
It says for the following extraordinary, but it doesn't say underneath.
Is this for the 1% performance adjustment, Mr. Kesnovich?
Hold on, I'm just looking at a current report. Madam Chair, I'd like to hold this transfer. I'm showing a negative 12-cent balance, so I
Okay.
don't know.
We need a motion to hold on the committee, or?
We haven't made a motion to approve it or anything, so I think we can just put it on the side. The next transfer is also in the town clerk's department, and it's for the clerical line.
And I'd like to hold that one, because I'm
Okay.
showing a $447 negative balance on that, so
Okay,
I'll meet with Deb on that.
okay, thank you. Okay, our next transfer is from the Council on Aging. It's an inter-departmental transfer coming from the van driver's account, which has $22,138.45. Amount requested $710 to the director's salary line, and this is reason for transfer, bylaw employee increase resulting from the 1% COLA in fiscal 2022.
Motion approved?
Second?
Thank you. So let's do the roll call. Let's see, all in favor. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So that's approved. The next transfer is for the fire department. Interdepartmental transfer coming from the firefighter salary line, which has $525,658. Amount requested, $18,200. Going to the equipment line for repair, they need a new motor in ambulance 1. So I see Mr. Chief Coleman is there. Do you want to tell us about this, Chief Coleman?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think you said it. We needed to put a new motor in ambulance 1. We need to keep that vehicle for an additional 3 years in a backup status. The $18,000 from the firefighter salary line item will not have a negative impact. I do have a vacant position since July 1 that we're anticipating filling in July, so half that salary is there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor? Let's do the roll call. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Chief. Okay, the next transfer is from the DPW, Stormwater. It's an interdepartmental transfer coming from the sediment disposal line, which has a balance of $3,895. The amount requested is that balance, $3,895, to go to asphalt material. And this transfer will allow the DPW to purchase hot top cold patch for potholes.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second, okay. So, any questions? No? Okay, all in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. And myself, yes. Thank you. Okay, so the next 3 transfers are all going to the, next 4 transfers are all going to the same line, road reconstruction. Can we take these together, Mr. Casanova, or is it the other way around, if they're all coming from the same?
No, I think whether they're coming or going, I think you can combine them.
Okay, do I hear a motion to combine these 4 transfers that are all going to the road reconstruction line?
Motion, second?
Thank you. So let's do a roll call. All in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So the first transfer, and we're taking them all together, they're all interdepartmental transfers, coming from the civil engineer line. Amount requested is $7,500, and that's going to road reconstruction. The next transfer coming from the civil engineer 2 line, which has a balance of $4,710. Amount requested $4,500 to cover road reconstruction costs. Third transfer coming from the public education account, which has a balance of $2,500. Amount requested, that balance, $2,500, going to road reconstruction. And the last of the 4 transfers is requesting money from the wages full-time line that has a balance of $91,999. Amount requested, $39,000, going to road reconstruction, and this is all to cover road reconstruction costs. Is our DPW, thank you. You can tell us about this. Thank you, Joanna.
So in summary, basically, this year, the last roadway reconstruction project, we expended more money than we anticipated. Once we dig up a road, there's more drainage that sometimes happens and we need to replace. So just to cover us for the rest of the year, if the guys need to do additional drainage or anything like that, we're looking to have some money left over for the remainder of the year.
Okay, thank you. Will this leave us enough money in the wages full-time line And the public education line?
Yes, the public education, we're actually, that's one of our EPA permit requirements, and we're using social media more than anything to educate the public, so that's not going to be an issue. And we've had several vacancies and some of our staff, but we didn't fill a position early in the year, so we have enough.
Okay,
to
thank you. And
cover.
just one last question before I turn to the members. Did we get all the money that was supposed to be sent to us in Chapter 90 money? Or maybe this is for Ed?
Yes, yeah, we had roughly 609,000 committed.
Oh, good.
We did receive, we expended that full amount. We did have 2 requests for reimbursement. One we received, I don't know if we received the other one. There is, but it's treated as an accounts receivable. We will be receiving our full share.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, members, do you have any questions?
Just for clarification, you're saying that you have some vacancies, so you're sort of making the determination, just so that I'm clear, that you've got, because of these vacancies, excess for the months of July, August, September, and October, November of this current year, which will allow you, if even filled, to not hit the budget for the remainder of the year.
So it's actually opposite. We had one of our engineers was actually on leave earlier in the year. One of our engineer 2, he didn't start, he wasn't hired until April, so that money was available. And then we have some other employees that will not be, that are on leave, that won't be coming back to work until either December or April of next year.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen, question?
Just quick, Joanne, road construction's always a popular of interest of certain people, and depending on what the condition of their roadways. What, can you just quickly on the status of when those are advertised, as to what your intentions are for the coming year, next spring's projects, and is this money helping you to get some prep work done so that those roadways are ready to go for construction once the weather improves again?
Sure. So this is more money for, it's not going to give us, it's not going to be enough to pave an additional road, but, and we've expanded pretty much all of the money for this year. But we actually have our 2 engineers driving the roads and rating them. They were out today. They've been out for the last few days, so we haven't done that. We haven't been able to do that in the last few months. So they're taking advantage of the I guess clean gutters still, and looking at the condition of roads. And once they kind of rate all of those, then we'll kind of narrow down the wish list, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, how about our members at home? Diane, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, and Michael, do you have any questions?
I'm all set, thanks.
Thank you. So, do I hear a motion to approve these transfers that total $53,500?
Motion to approve?
Thank you. So all in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so our next, we have 3 more transfers. Let's see, they're all requested from the reserve account. First department is accountant for the chief financial officer. Amount requested $1,490, and present balance in that account is negative $1,487.78, and this is to provide for the 1% performance adjustment. Do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to approve?
Or approve? Yeah, second, okay. All in favor then. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So that's all set. The next transfer is, yes, sir.
Did you get Patrick?
I sort of slipped in a yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right, yes.
Patrick, yes. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, thank you. So the next transfer is also for the town accountant department, for the treasurer. Amount requested, $753, and present balance in that account is negative $753, and that's to provide for the 1% performance adjustment. Do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. So we'll do the roll call. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The last transfer is in the Assessors Department. It's an Inter-Departmental Transfer. There are two here. The first is coming from the clerical account, which has a balance of $10,117.98. Amount requested, $675, going to the Chief Assessor line, and this is to provide for the 1% performance adjustment.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Okay, let's do a roll call. All in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And the last transfer, also in the Assessors Department, for the cleric, amount is coming from the clerical line, which now has $9,442.98. Amount requested, $525, going to the Assistant Assessor, and that's for the 1% performance adjustment. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. So that's it for the transfers. Thank you. Now we're just going to decide if we're going to do reorganization and look at some minutes, then go into the executive session. So, department heads, thank you. You don't need to stay for this if you don't want to. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Thank you very much. Oh, is that the, did I miss? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right here. Yeah. So, let me ask, do we want to reorganize tonight? We're supposed to do it annually. We do it, we're supposed to do it in the summer. We have not done it yet because we haven't had a full complement of members, but at this point, we're all here, we're almost all here, only Mr. Coleman is not. So, so I think we can reorganize, right?
We have a quorum, right? So the quorum allows us to do it?
Yes, we have a quorum that allows us to do it. So,
Okay.
Sharon
I'm
starts.
going to open nominations for Chair of the Finance Committee. Any nominations?
I nominate Ann.
Second?
Are there any further nominations? There being none, the nominations are closed, and the vote will be for Ann as chairman. Patrick?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Absolutely.
And Ann?
yes,
It's unanimous of those present.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, so, I open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Kevin Kennedy.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? So I close the nominations for vice chair, and now let's vote for that position. All in favor of Kevin Kennedy for vice chair, let me go through the roll call. Kevin?
Thank you, Michael, yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. All right, good. So two more things. We're going to look at the minutes have been sent, minutes from March 31st.
Motion to approve?
Do we need a motion, or do we just, do we have any, I'll say, do we have any questions or concerns about them? I think then I think that's all we have to do. Am I correct?
If there are no objections or corrections, the chair can accept them.
Okay. So hearing no objections or corrections, we can accept those minutes. All right, so now we're down to our executive session. So I'm going to read this. go ahead.
No, I thought we had to like motion into
Make
it,
a
but
motion
it
to
looked like
go
you
into
were getting ready to do
executive
that.
session.
Yeah, it's on here, it's on, can someone make that
I
motion?
move that we move into executive session.
Can you read what it says on the agenda?
A motion, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to deliberate upon matters which, if done in an open meeting, could detrimentally affect the position of the town regarding a strategy with respect to litigation, to come out of executive session only to adjourn. So I would say, I just read it.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote for that, to approve that. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Michael? And myself, yes.
Point of clarification through the chair, we don't see who's on the screen, and we're in executive session. Should we make sure no one else is listening?
I'm looking right here.
Okay,
We're
well,
going
yeah.
out of this room.
He's just got questions up there, and I couldn't tell if someone else was listening.
I think
So,
there's a second link that we can switch.
yes, okay, so,
Right.
and because this open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body relative to litigation, and that the committee will come out of executive session only to adjourn. So do I hear, that's it, right? We can just
That's it.
close up? All right, so I'm gonna close out of this meeting, and Diane and Michael, you know what meeting you're gonna go to? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, and see you in a few.